Dear friends, welcome to the second part of this conference. We will be speaking about the application of tribes in action. We will see how wellness is applied in a company, and actually we'll see it in practice. We will be speaking about adaptability of companies within the new environment, and we'll also be leading with the issue of solidarity and how this affects companies. For this second part, we will give the floor to Madam Sofia Mavradza, who is a journalist and reporter and anchorwoman of CNN Greece, and she will be coordinating the second part, the second session, the second part of our conference. Good afternoon. In this conference, we focus on the philosophy Tribes for Business as a modern business approach that reflects the transformation in society. We speak about the tribes, that is, the groups of persons, be it the citizens, consumers, employees, who are related on a common purpose, have a common culture, and have the capacity to communicate their ideas amongst them. We will be discussing on how important it is for a modern company to perceive this dynamic of those groups and embrace them in its strategy and its new business model, so as for the company itself to develop on the basis of a new culture of cooperation and mutual understanding. Therefore, we stand at an era of drastic changes at the social and financial level. How these changes affect society, or how they are affected by society, is of crucial importance for each company, which must continuously adapt. The secret for this change of an organization is to be fully understood by social environment as it is expressed by tribes, so as to shape a process of change and the tribes to be included in that. The great benefit for the company from the incorporation of such a mentality of tribes in the central business strategy is the exploitation of this collective power of citizens, creating a framework of opportunities and innovation. And innovation generates new mechanisms that help at better exploiting the existing entrepreneurship and introducing perhaps new business model. On this rationale, companies have the capacity to perceive the so-called externalities in a social or environmental level and integrate them in their operation, internalize them, and thus create new business opportunities. Today, we have the joy to converse with the CEO of a company that has fully understood very early this new entrepreneurship model. We host Mr. Yiannis Kantoros, the CEO of the Interamerican Group. Good afternoon. Let us start by telling us a couple of things about this organization and the new tribes philosophy. Well, the Interamerican Group that have the great luck and joy to lead is not a new company. We know it. We celebrated 50 years anniversary last year, and we aspire to be here over the next 50 years. It's a member of ACNER, which is a Dutch cooperative company that has celebrated more than 200 years of life. Therefore, the first point that we must point out is sustainability and the philosophy of organizations to pursue sustainability in all its dimensions, which may perhaps make our lives difficult, because in Greece we are not accustomed to long-term planning. In the framework of the changes affected in Interamerican, I had the joy, as I said, and the honor to succeed Yorgos Kosialous, a great leader who was in charge. And 4 years ago, then I undertook this post, I had to trace the first new strategy for the course. One of the problems that appeared at the time, and it is always here, was the ever-increasing complexity in the business environment and the great pressures companies undergo when they have to make decisions when they do not have all the facts at hand. At least those who traditionally would make the decisions, how we can invest and listen to our customers in an environment which is not foreseeable, is more complex and far more uncertain. So this was the environment where all companies, and especially Interamerican, had to operate, and especially in Greece, these characteristics are far more intense in relation to other markets, European markets or international markets that operate in a more normal way. So the reply to this major question has been and still is the transformation of the company from a traditional and hierarchy-based company to be transformed to an agile organism, which is indeed at the prerogative to perceive what happens, to understand and perceive the new trends, and therefore give the new answers. This sense that I listen to, I perceive, and quickly react is at the core of the transformation and sets the identity of New Interamerican. Well, over the last years, your company is in an impressive course of transformation. From your viewpoint, how important is it to base this transformation on the principles of sustainable development and the philosophy purpose-driven business? Therefore, how strong is the dynamic of the purpose for the company so as to differentiate from competition and thus earning the emotional debate? Well, this is an excellent question. Well, first of all, insurance companies are de facto have to have in mind sustainability. Insurance companies, I may take a decision today which will show what will be the effect at 15 or 10 years down the road. Therefore, one realizes that needs a much more long-term horizon and planning of the decisions, which is closely linked to sustainability. Therefore, what we decide today, we must be able to sustain and support after 5, 10, 20 years. For instance, the insurance package in the pension field or in health, you realize what the notion of sustainability entails and how short-term decisions have caused problems in those fields. So intrinsically linked is also the notion of purpose. A purpose or an idea on which people may embrace makes you wake up gladly each morning. Short-term objectives such as profits or remuneration, a raise, which is closely linked to a business goal, are things that become obsolete 2 or 3 years later. It is very difficult to motivate your own people or broader groups if you merely aim at mere financial indices, no matter how important they are. So this is the difference between a company that is triggered and is a purpose-driven company in relation to a company that merely chases continuous financial growth. Simply speaking, trying to attain the goal, profits will come again, but not as an end in itself. Well, let me insist on this issue of purpose, how a business approach of tribes can bring the purpose closer to materializing the expected result. That is, in what ways and in what way the ecosystems of products and services link the needs of customers, employees, and other interested parties with the business pursuits of a company. Well, let us speak through examples, because that it will be most easily understood. In Interamerican, our aim to help our clients to live in a more safe way, but also longer, taking care of their health, and better. Because quality of life is equally important, not only the length, the duration of life. So speaking of tribes, in Interamerica, due to its size and different direction, have many tribes. They have 3 tribes currently. So each tribe, inspired by this new business purpose, has to deal with its own. Tribe, therefore, involved with risk insurance has another purpose, more specialized. Same the tribe dealing with health and the financial prospects, or the other tribe of technology that supports the other 2 tribes in serving and fulfilling their purpose. And within the tribes, the various work groups have their own sub-purpose, if I may use the expression, that must be aligned with the purpose of tribe, which in its turn is aligned with the business purpose. So the whole system, this 1,000 people working in the company, must be motivated by a purpose, which is not only the generic and perhaps abstract purpose, but also gives a sense in their own daily lives. Because a very obvious question is, how can I contribute as a personal employee, contribute to the overall purpose? How can I feel important and significant in attaining this purpose? And the answer is that each group must define its own purpose that will serve the broader purpose umbrella. So everyone chases something, which is something far more than a mere index or KPIs or some profitability indexes. So we built and created those a tree of purposes, which has been fully and very gladly and enthusiastically embraced by the employees. Although in the beginning, this major transformation has been quite novel for the Greek market, and we had to address a lot of questions. What's that? What that entails? What do you do? Will we be substituted by metrics, by purpose, and what does that entail for us? But I think that we have managed quite well, and currently the company operates in a very satisfactory way, and most importantly, with very satisfied employees who in turn keep our customers happy. Now, I would like you to tell us in which ways the tribes created a bridge for the improvement of the relation of the company with its customers. How do they contribute, those tribes, in building the trust relation with the customers? Well, this is also an excellent question. Perhaps this addresses the question why to create tribes from the beginning, why the rationale of a company organization around the tribes is better than the traditional organizations have known for many years. And in a way, it went very well. So is the organization better? Yes, it is. Bear in mind the environment where this business organization has to perform and act. Since our environment becomes all the more digital, all the more complex and ever-changing, the traditional hierarchy that has a lot of good things has also a major problem, is that it is too slow to realize what happens out there and offer the appropriate answers. Because when 7 people have to acquire for a simple thing, it takes far more than having one group organized flatly to perform. And this team has all the necessary skills needed in order to offer a solution. Therefore, the reply is better understanding of the client's needs and far quicker response. In many cases in the digital world, a quicker response means testing many different things and see what operates in action. And because this process of repetition and error, trial and error, takes a lot of time, it is impossible in a traditional organization. The response is organization with tribes brings us closer to the client and also reduces cost, because it is very easier to do a lot of trial and error, small efforts to see and understand what the client needs, instead of establishing huge and costly projects which do not operate when you realize that 2 years down the road. So perhaps through these descriptions, one can understand why we believe in Interamerican, that this organization is far more effective in the new digital environment where we all have to perform. Mr. Kantoros, could you please speak about the people of the company, which, as you very well know, are the heart of the company? In what ways the tribes operate for a new culture, and what way this new culture of group team spirit contributes in the overall performance? Well, such an effort cannot be attained unless it is embraced by the employees. What is interesting, however, here is that the employees become the stars of this transformation. Perhaps it's not totally valid what I am to say, but perhaps it would be a reading of this uniqueness. The one who loses, within brackets, vis-à-vis the previous situation is the management of the company. And this I say because the organization on a basis of tribes and within the tribes in squads and so forth needs much less hierarchy, much less management in relation to the traditional models. Therefore, the work is performed and the decisions are made by the employees, who, of course, must de facto acquire a great share of responsibility, not only in deciding in the decision-making process, but also accepting the results and the impact and consequences of what they decide upon. So they're far more accountable. Obviously, some training was needed and some time was needed so as to make the transit from one model to the other, because you realize that the organizational charts may very well easily change, but the habits takes far more to change within an organization. But what is very interesting is precisely this transformation. To offer an example, in the past we used to say we have a problem, we have this river, and we must build a bridge, and the bridge must be built this way, and then we'll be viewing the process of building. Now we merely say we have a problem. There is a river, find a way to cross the river. So, metaphorically speaking, this is a major change on what it entails for the employees, this transition from a traditional model to a model where its basis are the tribes. In previous units of this conference, we spoke of the new profile. In this last of leaders, so in this last question, from your own experience, what are the principles that make a modern leader timely and successful? Well, listen, to a great extent, leadership depends on the company, on the organization where a leader participates. In an agile organization organized on the basis of tribes, the characteristic of the good leadership is the decision to share power, to share the power decision-making process with a lot of people, to acknowledge that one may know everything. Therefore, in a lot of things, one must adopt the views of the partners who may not coincide with yours. Therefore, in a way, a more democratic and more horizontal leadership way, which is not easy, not at all. For people who were grown more traditionally, because I have also operated in a more traditional environment, it's not easy. And of course, the possibility to convince and affect more instead of imposing, in contrast to practices of the past, where actually it was an issue of leadership of the boss within the company. Now one has to inspire. This is the great change in the new ways of company management. We warmly thank you, Mr. Kantoros, for this extremely interesting discussion. I also thank you.